Everything we do is going to be about winning. Okay, we're going to learn to do things the right way, and that's the only way we're going to do them. Because if it doesn't help us, we're not doing it, man. That's just as simple as it gets. Win the Super Bowl.
That's
I
good.
mean it too. You know, one of the things that the only reason you become a head coach in this league, in my opinion, is to win. That's it. That's the bottom line. If you do it for any other reason, you're wrong.
Hey football fans, welcome to the Washington Command Center. Today, I want to give my thoughts on a way I think Washington could boost Sam Howell's chances for success and maximize our offensive line personnel without signing a single free agent. Because just like Ron preaches and Sam echoed after the Dallas game, it's in this room. And with a few tweaks, I think we could strap a rocket to Sam's development to make sure that the first quarterback drafted is our franchise quarterback in this new era of Washington football, an era where this proud franchise can once again command respect. And what better way to kick off this new era than subscribing here to the first, the real, the OG Washington Command Center, so you can find your way back to some of the most opinionated and ice-cold calculated takes on all things Washington Commanders. While you're at it, ring that bell, hit that like button. It's free to do, and it means a lot. Okay, I'm back, and I got some ice-cold calculated takes I've been formulating over on Twitter for the last few weeks. I got some personnel recommendations to break down that I think could go a long way to making Sam Howell as successful as possible. They might seem a little crazy, but I promise, I got some evidence, anecdotal as it might be, but still, something that should make me sound a little less than completely crazy. And after I break them down, I'm going to throw out some production predictions of how much I think Sam and Eric Bieniemy elevate this group over the trio of Heineke, Wentz, and Scott Turner. So stick around to the end of the video for those. Okay, so going into the offseason, a lot of us were pretty concerned about the state of the offensive line. And the free agency moves we made didn't seem to calm them down, although a lot of analytics guys out there thought pretty favorably of the moves, especially with Wiley, who I agree is also a pretty good player. But as a whole, we went into the draft still concerned about this offensive line. And while we didn't go early, we did manage to fill what I thought was the most urgent need at the center position with my personal favorite prospect in the position in the draft with Arkansas's Ricky Stromberg. And along with him, we got a very high upside athlete in Braden Daniels that still needs quite a bit of polish. So we got a great addition and a solid addition, in my opinion. But while I think some of the off-season additions are pretty good ones, I think we are misusing the pieces we have. And it's creating problems for ourselves. And we've already got a shimmer. We've already seen how these problems are negatively affecting our hopeful franchise quarterback in OTAs and minicamps. Now, the offensive linemen are quality. And some of them, I think, have high-end potential. So what's the problem? Well, in my opinion, the problem is our very talented quarterback is only 6'1". And we've plopped a 6'5" Nick Gates in front of him at center and a nearly 6'7" Sam Cosmi right in front of him at right guard, which is bad for Howell. And in my opinion, a horrible waste of the potential of Sam Cosmi. You know, as a result, we've seen Howell, who was a pretty talented middle-of-the-field passer at UNC, struggle to hit anyone outside of our tall tight ends like Logan and Turner. across the middle of the field. Coming out, Sam got comped to two very lofty players by the few analysts that didn't take the cheap, him and Baker look related, let's comp them approach. The loftiest coming from his former offensive coordinator and a couple others to Drew Brees. While others, like an ESPN analyst whose name escapes me at the moment, and PFF's Mike Renner, and myself, we all comped him to Russell Wilson. But most of us that comped him to Russ did so with the distinction that Sam was a far better middle of the field thrower, and a lot more like Brees in that aspect, since Russ has always struggled to pass across the middle. Before the draft, Russ and Sam both named Drew Brees as one of their top influences too, which, it makes a lot of sense. It makes it easy to see how two cannon-armed quarterbacks and running back bodies emulating the same guy kind of arrived at a similar play style, while Sam got some of these Russ comps, because they're a lot alike and they're basically trying to be like the same guy. Now, these guys are all within 3 inches of height of each other. Russ being 5'11", Drew being 6 foot, and Sam being 6'1". So what made the difference with their ability to throw across the middle? Was it just Breeze's processing that made the difference? And why is Sam having trouble now? Was it just the upgrade in competition making it harder? I don't think so. And I think we can fix it pretty easily if you look at the teams around them. If you look at the teams around, Breeze, Russ, and now Sam, the offensive line specifically, Drew played behind quite a few different guys throughout his long career between the two different teams he played for. But for the first 14 years, Breeze never had a center over 6'3", or guards 6'5" or taller. His guards, according to combine measurements, were all slightly below 6'5" and lower. He never had any high draft picks on his interior offensive line during that time either. Fourth rounder later type guys that made it to a lot of Pro Bowls with him back there making their jobs easier, because he was reading the field quickly and getting rid of the ball. Something I think could offset any slight downgrade in blocking ability swapping these guys around could cause. It might not seem like an inch or two would make a difference, but the stringentness of how Breeze's lines measured out really makes me feel like it was a conscious decision, where they chose guys he could see over once they hit their blocking stance ahead of some higher tier prospects. And it looks like it had a positive impact, especially when you contrast it with Russ. Him being even shorter possibly compounded the problem, but he started out with an offensive line a lot like what we're trying to force on Howell right now, paying no attention to the height of the lineman. We have a 6'5" center in Nick Gates, who's exactly the same height as Max Unger, who Russ started out with in front of him. 6'6" Pat McQuiston is pretty close to the same height as Cosme. And, he also had to worry about a 6'5" left guard in James Carpenter, who used to be a tackle. Now, that's not a problem Sam has to worry about, because the rest of our potential offensive guards all fall into like a good range of under 6'5" for him to pass over. These conditions could have started as a hindrance to Russ, then developed to a flat out aversion that, we could have seen by him just not passing across the middle throughout his career. And that's a limit I definitely don't want us to impart on Howell, who was a very good middle of the field passer in college. Especially when fixing it can be done very easily and in a way that not only boosts his ability to read the field, but it should boost the performance of the whole offensive line. Not only because Sam's getting the ball out quicker, but because it lines up in a way that actually capitalizes on where these guys had past successes or maximizes their current abilities. So let me break down what I think our optimized offensive line is. Let me start this all with just saying first, some guys can flip sides of the offensive line and play just fine. But some guys look like a fish out of water. Like how Panay Sewell, generational guy, looked terrible at right tackle for Detroit and instantly went back to generational when they put him back at left tackle. Some can do it with, less of a downgrade than that, but it's still not optimal, which is where I think we are with Cosme. I think we are completely wasting him anywhere on the right side, offensive guard or tackle. This guy started in college at right tackle and was pretty good, grading somewhere in the low to mid 80s, very solid. But he took a huge step up after moving to left tackle, where this guy was an elite pass protector. He graded out at a 90.7 in pass protection with a 90.8 overall in his senior season or his junior season at left tackle. Now, people worried about his arm length, but arm length isn't everything at offensive tackle. Cosme meets the threshold anyway. 33 is the threshold. He's there, and his athleticism, strength, and agility can let him overcome and thrive against any of that. I mean, he's the tallest, most athletic guy on our offensive line with a nearly perfect 9.9 RAS score. Moving him to his natural position boosts us at the most important spot. It gets him well out of Sam Howell's vision over on his blind side and solves a lot of problems Leno had with speed on the outside last year. Last year, he was getting beat by those faster edge rushers. That's not going to happen to Cosme. He is a freak of nature athlete. We put that guy on the outside, and nobody's getting by him. And I'm not worried about, just a little arm length or something. He meets the threshold. We're just worried because he's just at the threshold. But this guy's a freak athlete. He should be at left tackle, where he was an elite pass protector at Texas. That doesn't mean we should get rid of Leno, though. The guy has been a top-tier pass protector since he's been with us. And even with getting beat bad a few times a year that really sticks out to people, he's still been a well above average offensive lineman. While playing at left tackle, possibly the toughest offensive line position. But with Cosme there now, in theory, dealing with the speed, I think kicking Leno inside to left guard would be the easiest transition for him since he's played his whole career on the left side. And I think it could possibly breathe a new life into his career. Taking away the need to cover that outside area, letting him utilize both his elite 34 and 3/8 inch arms, and his top tier anchor to give us what could possibly be elite left guard play. Not to mention, this could even boost his run blocking ability. You know, him being able to get his hands on most interior defensive line guys first with that length, we could see a huge burst in Leno's boost in Leno's play just by kicking him in. And most importantly, even with that arm length, Leno does this all at only 6'3" and a quarter inches tall, which would give Sam a clear view to the left side of the field, making it easy to read once Leno hits that blocking stance. And with that, we'd have the left side sewed up. Cosme back there out of view, using all his athleticism to keep the edge. Leno right there in front of him, easy to see over. And that brings us to the center position, where I think we got to go with the rookie here. Stromberg was the best center in the SEC, which is the closest thing to NFL comp outside the NFL. In my opinion, he was the best blend of development and potential in the draft. He's polished enough to start right away, in my opinion. And he's shown that he could stand up to players like Philly's new dynamic duo of defensive tackles in Hurts and their new Georgia boys in pass pro. While he's also shown the ability to just bully in the run game with his agility and athleticism. He was the top RAS scorer at the position in the class with a 9.57 RAS, and he's only 6'3", which would give Sam clear line of sight. Plus, he's got 33 and a quarter inch arms, which is acceptable for offensive linemen, like we've talked about, and that's a huge advantage inside at center. Now, we paid Nick Gates a little bit of money, but not enough for us to ignore what could be best for the team. And we spent a high enough pick on this guy, since he really impressed with all the pre-draft meetings with his football knowledge. I don't think there's any reason he shouldn't be the week 1 starter. Since we all know Eric Bieniemy's boy has the right tackle position on lock as the best option and Eric Bieniemy's handpicked guy, let's move to the spot left open by Cosme with my move here to the right guard position. And the 3 guys we'd have left competing for it are almost a complete wash physically. I mean, Chris Paul, 6'3", 34-inch arms, 328 pounds. He played right tackle in college. That gives him, the good continuity, being on the right side. He had a 9.47 RAS at offensive guard. Then we've got Sadiq Charles, who's 6'3" and a little less than a half. He's got 33-inch arms. He's 321 pounds. He played at left tackle in college, where he graded at a 70.4 according to PFF. And he only ran his 40, so he has no RAS score, but very athletic player. Then we have Braden Daniels, who's 6'3", almost flat. He's got 33-inch arms. He's only 307 pounds. He had a 9.56 RAS, and in college he graded at a 72.4 at left tackle. So Daniels is a great athlete, but he's very, very raw. And I know Ron and the guys are really hyping up Sadiq and what he's doing at left guard, But I think Leno is by far the better choice for there. Plus, he's in the last year of his contract, and he just hasn't been healthy at all in 3 seasons. And while he was a left tackle in college, having the advantage on that side, if we were trying to fill the left guard position, I think Chris Paul would be the better choice at right guard, playing on the right side, just like he did at Tulsa, where I thought he was way more polished than his first round pick teammate that shined for Dallas last season. You know, going into year 2 with a solid game against Dallas under his belt, good height for Sam to see over, close to Leno's arm length, which is a big advantage, top tier athleticism at the position with, as I said, a 9.47 RES score. Plus, he's got a bit of extra beef that we're kind of missing at 328 pounds. I think just swapping these guys, I mean, we put him at right guard. I think just swapping these guys around takes our offensive line from a unit of concern to a confident, formidable group that could shock everyone and actually break into the top 10. Like, I really think this lineup could do it. It would give Sam Howell the cleanest view possible, more than enough protection, plus a bunch of athletes that could just be bullies in the run game. I mean, Cosme at left guard or left tackle, Leno at right guard, Stromberg at center, Chris Paul at right guard, and Wiley at right tackle. I think that is the way to go, and I really think something needs to happen to get this going. I'm putting this video out here just praying someone will hear it, or that something happens in training camp so that we can see something like this happens. I think all it would take would be for Cosme to get some reps at left tackle, along with Stromberg getting some reps with the ones. If that happens, I think everything would fall into place, and they would see that this was the best offensive line we could put into place with the guys we have, and it could be a great offensive line, and it could go a long way to helping Howell. But help or no help, on to the production projections for Sam. Even without completely maximizing the offensive line for him, I am very confident in Sam Howell and his abilities at quarterback, along with Eric Bieniemy as an offensive coordinator, who, if nothing else, is transferring a far more efficient Kansas City style offense to this team with the great weapons we have. And I think this offense is in for a large uptick in production. Last year, with Scott Turner at the helm, Carson and Taylor combined for about 225 passing yards, 1.4 touchdown, 0.9 interceptions, and just over 11 rushing yards per game, which came out to a pitiful total of 3,614 passing yards, 23 touchdowns, 15 interceptions, and just 182 rushing yards from the quarterback position last season. And they only played 16 games. I think a big part of Sam's comp to Russ comes down to the durability. A quarterback being built like a stout running back gives them both. And one of the biggest boosts that we might get from Sam is just having the same quarterback on the field for all 17 games for the first time ever on this team. Then I think the type of modest upgrade him and EB will bring on a game-to-game average will add up to some seriously shocking numbers by the end of the season. And paired with our defense, I think it should be enough to get us well into the playoffs. I think at his floor, Sam gives us the best parts of Heineke and Wentz on the field at the same time. He's got the moxie and mobility that help Taylor, with the durability and vision to make the best use of that. He's also got arm strength above what Wentz had last year, with a far quicker release, accuracy, and way better ball placement. That should clean up a lot of the turnovers that came outside of decision making from both quarterbacks. I mean, sometimes they weren't making bad decisions. They just threw bad balls that led to turnovers. I think we won't see that from Howell. I think he'll still have, as basically a rookie, he'll have bad decision turnovers, but the bad ball turnovers, they'll be gone. And the percentage will go down a bit, along with Eric Bieniemy's offense shielding him from that type of play calling anyway. And all in all, I think we can expect an improvement of plus 30 yards per game, which is basically just one more completed deep ball. I think that's going to turn into a bit better than half a touchdown more a game. Let's call it, 0.6 per game. I think that ball placement, that accuracy, and play calling should bring those interceptions down a little bit to, let's just subtract 0.3 interceptions per game. And I think Sam Howell's sturdiness and rushing ability will give us 3 times the rushing yards that we got from our quarterbacks last year, which isn't hard. And I think these are small, very realistic improvements that we can expect that's going to add up in a big way over the season. I think Sam's going to have 255 passing yards per game, 2 touchdowns per game, 0.6 interceptions, plus 32 rushing yards. And that's going to bring him, by the end of the season, to 4,335 passing yards, 34 TDs, which we haven't seen ever, I don't think, in this franchise, only 11 interceptions, and a big-time 544 rushing yards from the quarterback, which would be a massive step in the offense in this new era of Washington football, an era where this proud franchise can once again command respect. As always, no better way to kick off this new era than subscribing here to the Washington Command Center, so you can find your way back to some of the most opinionated and ice-cold calculated takes on all things Washington Commanders. Once again, guys, sorry for the off-season break. I'm back, and if you watch this long, I love y'all. Peace.